Welcome to another episode of Dialed and Driven Hockey Mentality Podcast. My name is Chris Palmer, mental performance coach for hockey players throughout North America and Europe. Across from me is Jeff Lerg, former professional hockey player, goalie mentors. To my left is Natalie Ferentz, and she's going to be here today, and I wish she was here more because she has so much to offer. She's a former D1 star hockey player. She's today going to open up a segment talking about something we're going to be doing from now on, and that's really addressing more questions you have, things you want to know about how to become more dialed and more driven. Natalie, you want to get us started?
Yeah, let's get right into it. So after 40 episodes, we wanted to introduce this new segment where our listeners ask us questions, really just to get more dialed on life, hockey, mentality. So one of our listeners wrote in and said, "My coach isn't playing me, even though I'm working hard in practice and doing the best I can to be successful. What else can I do to earn playing time?"
I love that question because I love practices. I love team practice. I view that as one of the most valuable times of the week for any athlete to be all in on practice. And the answer that I can give is something that our current teenagers aren't going to like, because it's something of delayed gratification. Those great practices over and over will pile up. They will compound. It's not like you have one great day and coach says, "Hey, you're the starting goalie." You have to do it over and over. So what I would do if I were this youngster is I would continue to set my internal goals, whether it's a player, goalie, and say, okay, I'm going to let up 5 goals or less this practice. And then if that's done consistently, then you can build up a little bit of an internal stat line that you can sit down with your coach and discuss if your playing time still doesn't change. But as time goes on, coaches, I don't like to give them all the credit in the world, but they're smart enough to figure out those that are impacting practices, or they should be able to. So from my standpoint, it's the consistency, and it's the delayed gratification, and it's the grunt work of doing it over and over. And that's the answer. And then you build your case internally to have a good discussion with your coach if the time is needed.
Yeah. I mean, I think what you're talking about is so clear that a coach's job is to figure out who can help win games. It's super important. All this is important to win. And trust is a big thing. And if you have 1, 2, or 3 good practices, that's great. But 1, 2, or 3 good practices isn't enough to show a trend. You really want to show enough that you're trusted. And it's going to be important. So sometimes it's hard to keep hitting your head on, I'm doing well, did better than this other guy. But in the end, having this pattern of trustability is a giant thing.
I want to add another layer to this question. I'm not sure if this listener really wanted to dive into possibly the off-ice of it, but is there anything that they could do this season before playoffs, or maybe not instant gratification, but at least get them a little bit of a push in the right direction, maybe in the gym or off-ice?
Well, I'll say that it becomes this tricky balancing act we've discussed before, where some players like this, they obviously aren't playing as much as they want, so they start to do more work. And then they could have a time when their practices aren't as strong because now they're tired. So still keep your team practice as your primary focus. Like, that's your time to show your coach. They don't see you in the morning at your 6 a.m. lesson. They don't know how well you're doing at that time frame. They only see you when it's your time to be with your team. So although you do want to do extra, do it on days where you don't have a team practice. That'd be my suggestion. So every night you can stretch at home if you're a goalie, or stick handle in your garage if you're a player. You can do that daily. But when you do your extra sessions, whether it's extra sprints on your own time or plyometric workout or stretching, do those activities more frequently that are more that kind of exert more energy. Do those on non-practice days.
And that makes so much sense, because if you're not getting enough rest, you're just tearing yourself down. We just did a workout yesterday. I do this mental performance training. It's kind of like a structured bag skate, but it's not punitive. It's meant to help them hear that doubt, fear, and worry in their heads. And the first thing we saw after doing just a couple laps, guys are huffing and puffing. We checked their pulse rate and try to bring people back down to 120 before we get started back up again. So I put somebody in the hospital. We're firing off 135, 140, 142 after a decent amount of rest. Cardiovascular is your giant thing. So the number one thing I could see out here is that these guys just need to work on getting in shape. So anything you can do that works on the aerobic side that doesn't kill your ability to go back to practice is going to make a huge difference.
So let's move on to the second question. And this listener wrote in and said, what do you find are the most successful workouts for being an overall good athlete?
Well, first off, you just were touching on it, Chris. The sprints and the cardiovascular, that gives you confidence. Like they're grueling to do. They're super difficult when you're in the moment. But anyone who's ever done the old school beep test or is playing another sport in the gym and you're doing your little suicide runs or your mountains on the ice, when those are done and you know you've given it all and maybe you have a timer to get it done by, it builds confidence. So just as an old school workout, the sprints. But as I kind of navigated into the more professional ranks, the athletic world became much more advanced. So these multi-joint complex movements where you're moving multiple body parts at once. So you could be doing a lunge with a pull at the same time and then finishing with a high knee. So you're moving all these different ranges of motion. Or you could be doing a lateral lunge and then you're going down and reaching over to really extend your length and strength. So the multi-dimensional movements, the multifaceted where your joints are moving in a variety of directions, in addition to the full-out sprint would be my recommendation. And really, like, we're trying to give actionable steps that don't cost an arm and a leg. I was fortunate enough when I was a kid, I did that pretty much identical workout at my house on nights I didn't practice. We had a stationary bike. It wasn't anything fancy, just an old school stationary bike. And I'd be going for 30 on, 30 off. And then as the time went on, I'd take a little bit more time, 30 on, 60 off. But it was a 15, 20-minute workout and you're gassed. And then even as simple as getting up to the Planet Fitness, $10 a month, instead of going on a long jog there to just kind of go get a sweat, put yourself through a hard workout, spend $10 a month, get on a stationary bike at Planet Fitness. And it's an easy outcome, easy solution to find a really palpable outcome to your body VO2 max.
It makes so much sense when you're thinking about guys cross-checking people, right? It's kind of a bench press move. But is it just that? No, it's a bench press move along with this dynamic movement of your whole body. It makes so much sense to bring all the things in. On my side, there's nothing more useful on the VO2 max thing than to do what the Russian guys did. I wish I had their names in the 90s. These guys were known for right after a game, if there wasn't overtime, they'd go in the locker room, they'd get on the bikes, and they'd be a half hour on the bike, busting their ass, 1 shift on, 3 shifts off. And they did this to build that cardiovascular because they knew there'd be someday that it's not all over after for third period. They want to be strong for that. And it's such a simple workout. It's 30 seconds hard, which is like a shift, then 3 30-second shifts, rotating your legs, recovering, and then back at it. You do it for a half hour. That's 15 shifts. It's a great game simulation. It's a great mental toughness workout. And then it's awesome all the way around for building your oxygen abilities.
Thanks, guys, for introducing this new segment. It's going to be a weekly thing now. If you'd like to ask us a question, please visit our website, www.goalimentors.com/dialed-and-driven. And there is on the homepage just a little button to press, fill out a Google form, and we will do our best to answer your question in a timely manner.
We will also have that in the description of each episode, and we're open to suggestions for this little segment. I have my personal thoughts, but I'd love to get the feedback from those frequent listeners who kind of understood our ethos and what we're trying to get across. So open any names for this segment as it's our first time, and we'll be continuing it weekly. So thanks, Nat, for coming on, and my wish of getting you on more is being granted. So thank you. Thank you.
Enjoy this episode.
So we've talked before about how we both see this whole world, this big spectrum of everybody trying to get what they want out of their hockey and their lives. And on my side, I see guys who look like you, who are full of doubt, fear, and worry. And people who are just starting out, just figuring it out. 8-year-old kid in house leagues going, I don't know. That's the range. But you have this perspective from your side that finds a way to help people quantify these things, really kind of make them actionable on a micro level, not just these big goals, but break them down into things that you can use. And you had an idea this week of something that people can use right now that will help them make this big stuff into something that's usable, almost like a checklist. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, yeah, this idea came from the 5 Champion Habits Guide that I wrote recently. And again, if anyone wants a copy of that, free copy, just send us a message on our Instagram. Natalie will shoot you over a free copy of the 5 Champion Habits for young athletes, youth athletes. And this idea came to me because I have been attending team practices, being the goalie coach hired to go out to a team practice for 23 years. I have been going out, doing the grunt work, getting time to work with goalies at their team practices when the coaches allot the time for the goalie coach. But then when I'm not working with the goalies, I'm of course just evaluating, trying to coach them in their team drills. And I have just seen the evolution of team practice importance just go straight downhill. And I mean that as a whole, not to every individual, but as a whole, when you look at the viewpoint of when we were younger growing up, we didn't have all these additional training opportunities. So team practice was like it. Like I was getting pasta and great, hydration. I couldn't wait to get home from school, get a great meal, go to a team practice. Now there's just so many opportunities for kids where they're up early before school. They're in the gym doing private workouts. They're skating right before their practice. I've just seen team practices just be very poorly executed by teenagers, mostly due to them just not having that be the sole priority. So with that, I wanted to have just a quick little checklist. We'll keep it tight. We'll keep it quick for those teenage athletes with how you can help yourself be prepared and fully execute your team practice setting.
I mean, it's hard because these guys, they go to school, they have to raise their hand to go to the bathroom, right? How many original thoughts do they have? It's do what the teacher says, do what mom and dad says growing up. You're taught as a kid, do as you're told. So I understand this coming into practice thinking, hey, this is somebody just tell me what to do. But you're talking about this higher level because you can do just what you're told to do and be like everybody else. Or you can find a way to come in and be so amazing, really with some kind of meaningful, intentional goal. In your case, breaking it down in this checklist where you can actually have something that's amazing. Tell us about your checklist.
Well, I think intentional is really the key word. It's having the intention behind successfully executing your team practice as if it is the most important thing that you want to accomplish that day. And even if you do have a workout or a skate earlier in the day, it's still trying to find a way to make that the most impactful time of your day. So in terms of a little checklist, I think first little actionable item for all the athletes is, do you have your hydration and nutrition? Is it in a good place? If you're having a workout or a skate before, are you hydrating in between and bringing enough food to be prepared? If you've had a long day and you have a morning training activity, are you fully amped up and juiced up for your practice? Countless athletes get up earlier than school to do some form of activity, and then their body is depleted mentally and physically by the time practice starts. So rule number one, checklist item number one, check off that nutrition, hydration, rest. Boom, you do that. Then you move on to actually arriving to the practice. A, are you there in a timely manner? But B, what's your quick little focus routine? How early are you putting your phone away? Not here to condone, not touching your phone the second you're in the rink, but when do you snap into it focus-wise? And when do you just give yourself that quick little reminder, 15 seconds of, I'm going to be quick, I'm going to make good passes, I'm going to keep my head up. Boom. There's your quick little focus routine as you're stepping onto the ice. So those two, right away, we haven't even touched the ice yet. They're setting the table to at least give yourself a chance to have a good practice.
That's great. Well, I think it's so hard because when you look at practice, especially with as many opportunities there are guys literally driving 45 minutes to be somewhere at 7 a.m. They're probably up at 5 o'clock. And these guys need 8 hours of sleep. So let's go back from 5. They're going to go to bed at 9 o'clock? Maybe not. If they're taking honors courses and stuff, they have all this work. It's tough. So it really can feel like just one thing goes into the other, but you're giving the structure. Tell us more about the structure.
And then next from there, I've just seen, just with the nature of our world, our life, of course, digital entertainment is vastly more important to our youth athletes than verbal cues from a leader or teacher. It is what it is. It's a fact. So how do we train ourselves to actually still be a high level listener and someone who can focus when the leader of our team, our coach, our coaching staff is describing a drill at the board? I mean, it is wild how many people I look at. Like I always watch the kids when the coaches are speaking, and they're spaced out. They might be looking in that direction, but they're not really listening to what's being said. So that next quick routine, again, this is before the first drill is even taking place. This one I think is the most important, is that when that coach whether he's blowing the whistle to start with a game or he's up at the board, are you fully understanding what is taking place and what your task or job is to do it during that time? Because just like every sport, every game, you get off to a tough start, it takes a little bit extra work to snap back into it. So it's that good start by having high attention, high focus to the first drill. And then lastly, from there, it's locking into that compete mindset. Can be said for all sports, all ages. Higher level compete, higher level success. Very simple equation with sports and really in any realm of life, but it's snapping into that compete mindset. Could be a goaltender battling on loose pucks, battling through screens. Could be a player just going all out, taking a shot on net, following up their rebound, looking to bury it. Simple, actionable things that can be done. And not just going through the motions of doing a drill and coming down and missing the net and hitting the glass and floating through, because that's what just is activity. It's not really practicing. So with those 4 little checklist items, I want to just give a quick little hit list for those that maybe think they're on a really good track of practices, but really aren't quite getting the results they want.
Yeah. This intentionality thing's giant. I know we talked about it before. There are a million reasons not to be intentional. Look at all the things that happen in a kid's life. So much. I mean, there's school, there's parents, there's home, good things, bad things happen in your life. There's so many distractions. But I think one of the hardest things, I just want to mention this, it's really hard to blow up your teammate. It's really hard. But if we're really going to do this, and honestly, you can look at Saban. Saban talks about this, saying, if you really want to get to 95 or 100% performance in a game, and you're practicing at 75 or 85% performance, how can you ever expect to get to that last level? It's a wish, it's a hope. We don't want it to be a wish or a hope. We want it to start from this dream that you actually do things to get you where you want to go. And your checklist is talking about just some simple things to remember to get yourself there. But there's this other thing, and you have to have some kind of agreement with your friends so they know that you're going to try to play nasty in the corner, crash in the net, back checking every single thing you have so hard, so intense, as if you're practicing for the actual game. Because if you don't do it, then you're hoping that your handful of shifts in a game is going to get you where you want to go. And the development starts in practice. It starts in practice, and it's hard. And you're going to get called to try hard. There's going to be problems. There's going to be fights when this happens. But if you can't find a way to bring that kind of bite and fight that you want in the game, then you're literally not practicing for the game until you get to the game.
And really, the compete mindset can also be applied to just competing with yourself to make yourself better. And for example, there's times when a skill coach will come out and run a skills practice. And there's the 6th defenseman who's kind of that stay-at-home type guy and doesn't really have the high-level skill as that top-line centerman. So that top-line player loves the skill development practice because they're really good at it. So when you're trying to compete, it can be just competing with yourself to improve upon what's asked. Because as youth players, you're not going to design the practice. You're not going to love every drill. But it's taking that intentional mindset of what can you do to get something out of it. When you're doing little sauce passes and that's not a comfortable skill for you, it's snapping into that mindset of actually just giving your best concerted effort. And it could be as simple as trying to execute, hit your target, and then when you do get a shot on net, hit the net. You know, we've heard the acronym, just keep it simple. That's all it is. It's just the KISS acronym. Keep it simple when you're working on things that are uncomfortable. And then from a goalie perspective, I cannot tell you how many goalies go to a drill and they just completely shut off mentally because the coach designed it. Of course, he never played goalie, so he's clueless in how tiring it is to be a goalie. They design it with 4 or 5 shots in a row. And then the goalies just kind of decide, well, I'm not really going to try. I'm just going to kind of stand there. I'm just going to, if it hits me, it hits me. If a loose puck goes out and the guy gets an open net goal, I'm just going to watch him score. Like, it drives me absolutely nuts. And more than likely, they've already worn themselves out before practice. So they don't really feel like competing. So simple little things that you can do. And it could be, you don't need a goalie coach to tell you to compete. If a goalie coach or any coach is out there telling you to try hard, then you're playing the wrong sport. It's just the nature of athletics. If you can't push yourself to try hard and try your best, then you might as well just start looking for a new hobby.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to this idea of why are you doing this? And when you're 2, maybe you did it because it was just cool. Maybe when you're 7, it was cool. Maybe now it's not so much. But no matter what, the effort you put in yesterday is rarely good enough to get where you want to get tomorrow. And if we could find some way to give every single thing you have toward this, it'd be great. But with all the distractions you have in your life, what you're offering this week really is just a really simplified way to look at this, a way to make this big macro thing down to micro so you can move forward. Jeff, do you want to finish us out with a summary of that?
Yeah, really. I want to just continue to close the gap between both of the things that we're really passionate about. You get many clients that come in, or many athletes that come in, and as you say, they have that doubt, fear, worry, right? I come in with, hey, what type of habits and standards do you have for yourself? And I believe that the equation of maybe there's some athletes that come to you with those feelings that don't really go through this process of really living in their moments. We're just trying to close that gap. And then there could be the other end of it where some of the athletes who are going through the motions or are going through the activities that we provide like this, and they are really good and they are that disciplined athlete, but they're just not getting that level of success that they think they deserve. And then they go and see you and you kind of work them through different avenues. So I want to just provide as much as I can through doing things you can control. So first thing, as a quick little recap, nutrition, hydration before practice. Check that off the list. It might involve 3-4 hours before practice thinking ahead. It will involve that. Secondly, you get to the rink, it's the practice, it's the focus routine. What do? How early you putting your phone away, and how early before practice are you doing that quick little reminder on the things you're going to be successful at on the ice. Three quick things that you're going to do well for practice. Third, coach blows the whistle. What's the first drill? Do you fully understand it and execute it? Fourth, snap into the compete mindset. These 4 things can be applied to all positions and all sports.
Well, I'm really glad you said that. And before we end up here, I just want to say everybody is on what I'd say this spectrum, right? This big, giant expanse of where you are. And I guarantee you somebody has some terrible thing happen in their life. It's going to be hard to be at the top. It's going to be hard to switch that. And if you're at the top, something happens sometimes and it throws you off. We're constantly in there. And we go back to this Kucherov thing where Kucherov with 2 Stanley Cups comes in and he tells Lalonde on the bench, take me out, I suck. Hey, everybody has this stuff. And what I love about this is that you come from this crazy kind of world of always just super driven. But you had things that were bad and you still fought a way to get back. So that really is what we're trying to do. I love that if people can recognize performance is a spectrum and nobody lives at 100% of the time. It's all about trying to get to that thing. And you can live this life where you're stuck in doubt, fear, worry. You can live this life where you're not doing everything and you're kind of just bothered and stuck in a cycle. And you'll be like most of the world. But if you can find a way to work through that and go toward things more on this discipline side, make peace with it, go for something you truly want, so you have a chance of being amazing. Because to be at the top, you have to do things that a lot of people just aren't willing to do.
Yeah, I love it. Thanks, Chris. And really, last little summary to everyone here. I was putting our athletes through a little activity last week at the Athlete Academy, and world-renowned author James Clear, he wrote the book Atomic Habits. So I was giving them a little quiz. I'm having them kind of go through it and just kind of see what they can pick up off of it. And then we looked up. I said, gosh, this guy, I like to think that my Champion Habits guy is a Nobel Prize winner, but he's actually a real author with real results. So I said, let's look up how many million books have been sold. 25 million copies of Atomic Habits have been sold. And I said, well, kids, how many people do you know that live with these atomic habits? And they're like, 0. I said, exactly. Yeah. So it's all about taking the small steps and actually trying to take action and being intentional. So with that, as a reminder to all of our listeners, keep staying dialed and staying driven on your goals, as that's the only way to accomplish success. And reach out to us in any way with our social or our website. We look forward to getting your feedback and continuing to build that dialed and driven community.
Again, the Hockey Mentality Podcast, Dialed and Driven.